Welcome to the Word for Life podcast, a daily devotional covering the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation.
In Judges chapter 11, we read about Jephthah's rise to leadership and also his one big weakness. First, we learn that the elders of Gilead choose Jephthah to be their leader to fight the Ammonites. But we are also told about Jephthah's family background. In verse 1, we see that his mother was a prostitute. So, Jephthah's half-brothers had chased him away from his hometown. In verse 3, we read that Jephthah fled from his brothers and settled in the land of Tob. But surprisingly, verse 5 and 6 says, the elders of Gilead came to him and offered him the position of a commander. But in verse 9, Jephthah answered the elders, "Suppose you take me back to fight the Ammonites and the Lord gives them to me. Will I be your head?" You see, commander is apparently a lesser title and probably less permanent than the title head. So Jephthah asks for a bigger role. And in verse 11, the elders made Jephthah head and commander over them. Friends, despite being chased away by his own family, Jephthah has now become a head and a commander. You see, we all know of many a leader, even today, who beat great odds in life and rose up to leadership positions. People one day recognized their worth and gave them the honor that they once did not have. Yet, despite this great rise to prominence, the Bible author points out at one major weakness in Jephthah, and that is evident from verse 12 onwards. Before going to war against the Ammonite king, Jephthah sends a message to that king. But if you read Jephthah's message carefully, you will see his lack of knowledge. First, he calls Chemosh as the god of the Ammonites. You see, Chemosh is actually the national god of the Moabites, not Ammonites. Molech was the god of the Ammonites. Secondly, Jephthah says Chemosh was the one who gave the Ammonites their land. But according to Deuteronomy 2:19, it's the Lord who gave the Ammonites their land. Further in verse 25, Jephthah asks the Ammonite king, "Are you better than Balak son of Ziphor? Did he ever quarrel with Israel or fight with them?" You see, even here, Jephthah reveals his lack of knowledge. If we read Numbers 22 to 24, we see that Balak was not so righteous as Jephthah presents him to be. Balak tried his best to defeat Israel by asking Balaam to put a curse on Israel. And finally, Balak deceived Israel into idolatry. Friends, what we understand here is that Jephthah is an ignorant leader. But in spite of this flaw, God still uses Jephthah, whom the elders of Gilead chose as their commander and head. In verse 29 we read, "Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Jephthah. He crossed Gilead and Manasseh, passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites." However, from verse 29 onwards, the Bible author spends time in showing Jephthah's ignorance. In verse 30, Jephthah makes a vow to the Lord. "If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." Friends, first, Jephthah does not even realize that the Spirit of the Lord had already come upon him and had already empowered him. But here he tells the Lord, "If you give the Ammonites into my hands." Secondly, Jephthah does not know that Israel's God cannot be manipulated by a burnt offering. Thirdly, Jephthah does not even know that the God of Israel does not accept human sacrifice. Fourthly, he does not know that God had provided a means for redemption of vows. According to Leviticus chapter 27 verse 1 to 8, Jephthah could have redeemed his daughter. Friends, one thing is clear, Jephthah did not know the law of Moses. You see, Christian leaders give importance to knowledge. In Proverbs chapter 18 verse 15, we read, "The heart of the discerning acquires knowledge, for the ears of the wise seek it out." In Proverbs 23 verse 12, we are asked to apply our hearts to instruction and our ears to the words of knowledge. Friends, more importantly, Christian leaders know who their God is and what He desires by reading the scriptures. That is why in Deuteronomy chapter 17 verse 18 and 19, the Lord told the kings of Israel to write for themselves a copy of the law, and it has to be with them, and they have to read it all the days of their lives, so that they will learn to revere the Lord, the God of Israel, and follow His decrees. Unlike Jephthah, leaders spend much time in God's Word. Now these are the words of David, another great leader of Israel. In Psalm 119 verse 97, he wrote, "Oh, how I love your law. It is my meditation all the day." In Psalm 119 verse 148, he wrote, "My eyes are awake through the night watches, that I may meditate on your word." Psalm 119 verse 72 says, "The law of your mouth is better to me than thousands of coins of gold and silver." In Psalm 119 verse 130, David wrote, "The unfolding of your words gives light. It gives understanding to the simple." Friends, Christian leaders today spend much time in acquiring knowledge, especially the knowledge of God through the scriptures.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow for the next episode of the Word for Life podcast.